Hello and welcome to this week's, or probably more accurately this fortnight's, Madaxeman.com podcast after our bank holiday break a couple of weeks ago. In this week's episode there's all sorts of things. The full team of 7 are back. We've got all sorts of painting in 28mm scale down to teeny tiny ships. We also have a look at transfers and the cost of those and all sorts of other usual nonsense. I'm sorry, I think you're an arse. Debates the vexed subject of the American Civil War. Why bother? And also Andy's quiz returns, of course, in its decreasingly onanistically-themed new format. So sit back, enjoy the podcast, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time after this one wraps up.
This means war.
Well, welcome everybody after a 2-week hiatus. In fact, possibly even a standard 2-week hiatus as we lurch into the times when it's actually light in the evenings and things are open. We're recording this on Monday, the glorious 12th, when it is actually possible to leave the house, and we all think it's a huge step forwards towards that glorious time when Peter can properly get his hair cut. Although I can see you've not managed to fit that in today, but maybe in a fortnight we'll be seeing a slightly less American Civil War generalist version of Peter, which is a link to something in the future as well. We don't just throw this crap together. But I am, of course, joined by the full set of 7, as we've now got, after missing the bank holiday weekend last week's episode, we've now got a full 2 weeks of painting excitement to talk about and to dive straight into, and I'm sure other gluing excitements and other different bits and pieces as well. So if I start on the south coast with Mr. Adam this week, let's have a look or let's have a discuss. Is that the sound of a brush being rattled in a glass pot full of water or something? You're literally painting at the moment, but 2 weeks, what's gone on? How much has been done and finished and cleared the decks?
Well, excitingly enough, I've done quite a lot. I finished painting and rigging those couple of ironclad ships I was doing. Mm-hmm. And again, they're sort of like wargame standard, but they're now ready to go and they're in the box. So that was good. I then prepped up the next thing before I started painting the knights.
Does that need
which was the Victrix 12mm Germans. So I prepped up a load of them, and they're all sort of like prepped on bases and all nice undercoated black now, ready to paint.
Oh, this is the infantry, you mean?
Yeah.
You actually got the little soldiery people.
Oh yeah, I got them out, and it's interesting because I forgot how many there were in a pack. I think it was 184 in a pack. I think that's sort of like
an enormous amount, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a full company, which is kind of okay. The thing about opening the pack and looking at it, they're kind of done a company. So if you were doing a company 1-to-1, I think it's quite possible you've got everything you need to do a 1-to-1 company. But for that amount of infantry, I would have preferred to have some engineers, someone with a flamethrower and some sort of like mines lobbing, and maybe a few more artillery spotters, and like, because all it is sort of like machine guns. Riflemen, etc.
Okay.
They've given 80mm and 50mm mortars, but even then, it's late war Germans, so I'm surprised that they've got 50mm. But it's we'll see how it goes. I've got I haven't.
Can you tell the difference in 12mm? Really?
One is the 50mm mortar is quite small, and it's just like one bloke lying down holding it, kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas the 80mm is a proper sort of like standing there like that. Another one. Passing a shell, so that's different. But so they're undercoated black, and I'm going to be painting them in the same style they did with Russians, and we did those American Civil War troops because that works quite well for a quick thing, sort of like the black surf in the shade, and put things on. And because they're quite dark colours, I think that it's not too hard to do that over black, so they're ready to go. And I've also after that I started painting my Perry late medieval knights, and I've got all the riders done, and I'm just starting on horses now, which is what you saw me merrily washing my brush for. And that's interesting. Firstly, Do you know, last time I asked, can anyone recommend where I could get some transfers for medieval transfers type stuff?
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago, definitely. Yeah. Was it
yeah. Now well, I looked at Battle Flag. I just got a sheet of fleur de lis, 15 mil fleur de lis from Veni Vidi Vici, because the 15 mil ones, I thought that will look quite good if I actually put them onto the blokes and that's work. They, if anything, are slightly too large. So it'd be perfect for 15 mil ones. Would be perfect for heraldry on Capricens. But I've got a couple. Hang on. I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is bit glossy because I haven't done a varnish yet. But can you see that?
Yeah, that's not a bad size actually. A 15 mil fleur de lis, a white one going on.
It's yellow, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that works kind of cutely, definitely.
So that kind of worked. But I did look at Battle Flag, and that was a bit disappointing because they didn't really do that many. But one thing that they did do is transfers for the Fireforge.
Yes, the Fireforge Knights.
Teutonic. Yeah, Teutonic Knights, which is good because in my sort of like strategy of what 25 mil armies I'm going to do, I want a medium Knights army, and I was going to do the Teutonics because I think you can get away with having absolutely no foot. And the Teutonic Knights, they've got that whole snow Nazi sort of like
big hats
stormtrooper
with wings and stuff on it, all sorts of things
going on, which looks quite good. And you can also have some guest knights, add the colour as well. So I was going to do them. So I was interested in looking at the Fireforge transfers, but that was. And they gave it a really good write-up. You get enough transfers to do the whole box. And I think they even said it was the official transfers of the Fireforge. Yeah. But for one sheet of transfers to do 12 figures, £10.
That's half as much of the figures, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's 50%. That's adding almost £1 onto the price of each figure, which is like...
Yeah.
And I've argued before now when we talked about the cost of figures, especially 15 mil figures, I said I think a fair price is higher rather than the lower end of what's sold for. But £10 for transfers for 12 figures, I'm thinking that starts to feel like I'm being ripped off. I mean, that's more expensive than Little Big Man. And even Little Big Man, I'm like, then, because it's Romans and they'll make it look fantastic. So I doubt if I'll be buying them, but I'll probably.
I suppose at the end of the day, it is Black Crosses, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's not even particularly thing. So I'll probably be sort of like ripping some stuff on the internet, buying some transfer printer paper, and getting you to do it on your Flash New printer. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, quite possibly.
Probably get some transfers for airplanes and use them.
Exactly. Stole it out of my mouth.
Actually, yeah, there's got to be some Second World War German. Buy yourself a Focke-Wulf or something, and use that one.
But, the Knights of the Heinkel Order or something.
Yes. You'll be able to use the nose art on it and stuff like that. That would be good.
but the my late medieval knights are painted up quite well because I was going to say go to town,
but it's just a cross, isn't it? Can't you just paint that?
No, it's to make it look good.
Sorry, is there an echo in here? Right.
To make it look good.
I don't know why you're getting transfers. What?
On the
why?
It's a cross. Again, on the flowing Capricen, it's quite hard to do, and it's not just a cross. It's quite a sort of like the ends are flared, and it's a German native cross. No, it's like the ends are flared. If you want to make it look good, I don't have the skills to do them symmetrically on a regular basis. So if you just want to get sort of like a black felt tip and draw a cross onto your figures, you're more than welcome. But I'm having self-respect enough to want to do good figures. I thought I would I'll get Tim to print them out for me.
Peter, are you teeing yourself up to do a rant for future weeks on I'm sorry, I think you're an arse? It's just like
no need to do it future weeks. I'll do it now. It's like
just do it now. You're just straight into it. You're just onto it.
No, okay. It's just overkill.
Well, here's a question. Here's a more genuine. Here's a genuine question. I do like the Teutons for the whole snow Nazi thing, but painting that amount of white, Tamsin, how would you do that? Painting that amount of white to making it look good?
Simon, a spray can is not the answer.
Yeah,
a proper answer from Tamsin.
That's one. I'll probably start with for the comparisons. I'd probably start with sort of a pale blue-grey, and slowly add white into that.
Okay, and build up from there.
Build it up over a lot of layers.
Yeah, which 50. I probably won't be bothered to do. Yeah. And this is for the future anyhow. But that's good. But I'm pleased with.
If you don't want to do the time-consuming way, so I paint it white. I paint it white, and then use a grey wash.
Okay.
A blue-grey wash.
Grey wash.
A blue-grey wash into it.
Who makes a blue-grey wash?
Create your own wash, yeah.
Or just do Knights Hospitaller, and then you just spray them black with some white crosses.
Undercoat them grey.
Spray them black spray, straight cross, white cross, done.
Peter, again, I think the answer of how do I paint Teutonic Knights white, the answer of don't paint Teutonic Knights isn't really where we're going with this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Knights Hospitaller, so much easier.
But
overcomplicated.
To be quite honest, I'm surprised at Peter not suggesting spraying them with gold first.
Exactly.
Well, actually, there's certain ones where you can actually use a bit of gold. Some of the Teutonics had a bit of bling on them.
Yeah, but they'll just have messy old crosses if you're doing them. So we're saying there's such a thing as a grey blue wash.
Yeah.
Or do you just make it with a bit of painted water?
Make it pale blue grey or sort of mid blue grey. I dilute down with water and a bit of flow aid, and yeah.
No, I must admit, because I've got some 15mm Merliton Teutons, which I kind of painted white, and then they were too white, and then I tried to do a kind of a army painter style wash on them, and they look pretty grim.
Army painter
just doesn't work.
Kind of going to make it sort of very black in the recesses.
Well, this makes them very brown. They just look like they've been rolling around in the mud too much. And then I don't know, Adam, are you thinking about, if you are thinking about Teutonics, are you thinking gamble with the snow effect as well and just go full Teutonic, or is that just?
Nah, bollocks to that. I think is the honest. I think they'll be sort of like fighting in a bit where the snow's melted. Yeah. It's still probably quite cold, but because I think I could do quite a good snow effect, because you can buy quite good snow effect stuff.
You could do it by buying it.
Yeah, I could stick it onto.
You are good at shopping. Yes. Okay.
But again, it's like if there's ever going to be a morphage in the future, then it will be a case of sort of like 6 bases of your army. Because they're sort of like allied with the poles or something, have got snow, and the army hasn't snowed on.
What you could do, just get the frosty effect on the grass. Dry brush. I do basing as normal. Add static grass, whatever, and then go over. Then dry brush the grass with white or off white.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a specific, you go off-white for the snow. Is that kind of somebody's been pissing in it or something? Is that a different thing, or no?
No, I'm not talking the yellow off-white.
Not going for the yellow off-white, just slightly off-white.
Once the horses have passed by, yes.
Yeah, just the horses have turned it up.
Yellow snow.
No. So Dave, if you're talking about yellow snow, and it looks like you're pouring some onto, is that ketchup, or are you doing something with static grass? No, it may be a static grass applicator. You're knock applicator. So what have you managed to fit in and finish over the last couple of weeks in between, you're lurching around and scaring small animals and old ladies around various North London suburbs? It looks like, I'm guessing, the Battle of the Boing is ready to go and ready to be fought.
They look like Mexican bandits.
They are literally finished.
Literally
finished.
Wow.
I'm lying. There's two more bases of cavalry which need flocking, which I'm doing as we sit here.
Okay.
The entire Fogar army done.
Fantastic.
12 6-packs.
12. That's astounding. That's a lot.
Yeah, and all with wire spears drilled into the bases, giving extra permanency. Then 2 Fogar units of cavalry, so that's 8 bases. Little battalion guns, teensy weensy little battalion guns.
Oh, super cute. Yeah, on little round bases as well.
They're really tiny.
As markers, yeah.
And the Scotsmen, I've got two 12 packs of Scotsmen. I'm really pleased with the Scotsmen.
Hmm.
They look really good. I think they look great.
So you mastered the art of tartan over the last couple of weeks then?
I wouldn't go that far. I would not go that far, but I can make a passable representation of tartan.
Sort of squinty tartan then. So have you had any time to, now this has been looming over you for so long, have you had time to think about what might be next?
No.
No. It's just all blocked it out.
I mean, as we were saying a little while ago, Peter and I were talking about the Assyrians from Khurasan, but I'm starting to think, hopefully Mr. Khurasan is listening, which is very unlikely, but he's a bit slow at putting his stuff on his website. It can take a while, so I'm not sure. But then I anticipate in the next few weeks, we're going to be sitting there going, oh, bloody hell, I haven't got enough of those, or I haven't got enough of this. So
yeah, I suppose with version 4, there's always the possibility of needing an extra one or two, or repurposing a couple of things, or doing up the livery to make them slightly different, or appear as different sort of troop types, really, to fit together some other extra armies. So there might be a kind of flurry of infill work, which could be interesting.
Well, I think there's. I think we're probably likely to have a few things. The Romans are going to change, aren't they? A little bit, and
from some of the hints that have come out, there's a few little bits. I think hopefully it won't be too much in terms of mass rebasing or anything like that, but a little bit is just good, isn't it? It gives you a chance to update some older troops.
Late Roman ballista guys on the table.
Yeah, getting ready with your bolt shooters and your medium machine guns.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
This means war.
Well, look, let's moving round. Peter, other than not having your haircut, I guess if it falls forward over your eyes, that may obscure whatever you were supposed to be painting. But a couple of weeks ago, you were sort of almost on a painting hiatus, weren't you? I think.
Yeah, I've just been really busy with work, so didn't manage to do much. Did a bit of basing, finishing off a few bits. I didn't want to pick up anything too delicate because when you have one of those phases,
fingers, no,
yeah. Felt like. Okay. I felt like sort of, a Hulk moment if I tried to do those Prussians, me crash, me kill, Polish lancers now squashed. No, I was feeling a bit like that with fun stuff at work. So just did some basing, which, throwing a few rocks around, even though they're tiny rocks, but it makes you feel a little bit better about life.
Yeah.
That and sort of plotting various things, as Dave was saying about looking at some of the new ADLG version ideas and thinking about what I'd add and what I'd add to the shopping list. So doing a basic inventory of a whole bunch of stuff and finding out that, I've got this, I've got that, all ready to do some tweaks and supplement different armies if I chose, or otherwise researching a couple of things to find some snazzy models for ballistas and such like, for maybe some Romans and a couple other things.
Were you a kind of a ballista, cart-mounted ballista free zone then before now?
Well, I was actually going to ask your opinion on that. The group here, should it be cart-mounted or shouldn't it be? I've seen some with the cart and some without, and I'm not sure about it. I mean, they used it in England actually, and they had a whole range of them to shoot at one of the walled villages, didn't they? Forts. And they collected a whole host of ones. But should they be on the carts or not?
So as a wargamer and a miniature painter, I would say yes to both of them, because you need all the options.
Yeah, that's a good spot, actually.
Yes to both, yeah.
Yeah, carts and no carts. You get both of them, really.
And trebuchets and ballistas.
So I've got trebuchet. Yeah. I've got catapults. It's just getting the bolt throwers.
Because you need one cart with a Legionnaire at the back of it, sort of 50 cal point.
It's like the 50 cal get some style. Yeah,
out the top of a half track or something. I don't know. I must admit, if the rules are introducing a new concept of artillery, what can fire over Romans, to me that says stick the damn thing on a cart so it can actually fire over Romans. as opposed to being an artillery piece behind, that you're kind of going, do they all kind of lean, you know, somebody blows a whistle and half of them lean to the left and half lean to the right, and then straight through, kind of like a free kick through a wall. But so I'd go with cart, but and also I guess you're still, no, light artillery can now move and fire, can't it? So
yeah,
you might
exactly.
drag it up, but having it on a cart, it's just going to be able to see over other stuff, which would just look a bit more.
And it just gives it that extra. I do like the 50 cal bit. I've you know fired that before, and it's a lot of fun. So
they're kind of like technical Romans.
Yeah, Roman
technical Romans.
Yeah, it can be a
Jimpy
Subaru
mounted
cart
Romans. Yeah, that'd be good.
Or
so
a Toyota
yeah,
cart.
okay. Romans on carted Romans. What other Romans would I need? There was looking at some of them where they have the two-handed choppers. I know you were saying about those, Tim.
Yeah, there's going to be some of those in the rules, isn't there? I think going back to the other ones, I think I'm a big fan of Donington's artillery crew, because they come as singles and they're really nice figures. I think Tamsin, you started that a few months ago, didn't you, with the gay dancing, the gay Gordons or whatever they were, with the two hands up and down. I think the video is still somewhere on the podcast website, I believe. But yeah, that's a really good way to get the crew for those artillery and bolt shooters. And then there's going to be some, we don't quite know how many or how, but I guess they're Aurelian's Palestinian clubmen, which I suspect are in an Armies and Enemies book somewhere. But and God knows what they're going to look like. Yeah,
my early Roman Empire army is Imperial Roman, Corvus Bell. One of the first armies I did when I was getting back into miniatures. So hopefully the Donington ones go okay with that. You know, going back to the scale creep, as Adam likes to call it.
I think you can get the Corvus Belli ones again now, can't you? In plastic from PSC.
Yeah,
not sure.
Let's not go there. But they don't do artillery pieces.
No,
I've got a couple of Corvus Belli artillery pieces which I've never used.
What are they?
They don't have the little bolt shooters, though, do they? They only have the larger stuff.
I've got the bolt shooters.
Actually, I think the plastic ones do the bolt shooters, but it's one of those weird ones where I think that's one of the figure packs that's more expensive than buying in metal from someone else. So I think they've got the pricing a bit weird on that one. But
that's a little bit odd.
But yeah, look at the range of Donington crew. There's all sorts, and you buy them in singles, so you can cram as many onto the base as you want, really, with that one. So really, it's been
mule-mounted mule cart bolt shooters. That sounds fun.
Okay, so it's been a fortnight of prep then, really, but you're planning for something you don't know quite what it is yet.
Yeah, planning for something, not quite sure what, but I'm definitely going to have a bit of a laugh with it. I'm due to a few days off, so I'm booking a couple of days towards the end of the month where I'm just going to take a break and mull over the new book as it lands on the table, and planning different armies, because I entered a few competitions for the summer, doing London GT and maybe a couple of others, so quite looking forward to it. As David was saying, though, that still waiting for the Khurasan to post the Assyrians up.
Yeah, and then maybe that will come in time with when the new lists come out, because then there might be some changes to those biblical armies, I think, from some of the snippets that come out. Okay, then. Tamsin, what about you? You've had a little dibble into the conversation and talking about painting up white. And last time you just finished the teeny tiny American Civil War, and you were starting what we now see before us on a screen share. Some bloody amazing looking US paratroops in the jungle.
Yeah, I started off. Yeah, so I've actually done a fair bit of painting over the last 13 days. And I had these, they were based, and I'd added the base texture. But I was going to prime them the day after we recorded the last one. So I got that done. Painted up some of the test figures, just checked the paint scheme, and realised they came out a bit too. Ivy green, uniform green was a little bit too dark, as it was the BARs and bazooka teams. They'd be later war, so yeah, that was fair enough.
That's interesting. So you've got.
It was one of those bits when I was going through the photos, I realised Oh, I didn't take any of the photos of these after I'd varnished them, so and taken them off the painting stand. So,
okay. So
then got through this photo. Got my first batch of 12 with readjusted paint scheme.
those have got astonishing faces. Are these which manufacturer are these?
These I think mostly are in this photo. It's mostly artisan, and I think there might be a couple of Crusader in there.
Okay. And did you deliberately lighten the uniforms because they're sort of tropical climate? And you
not because it's tropical climate, but because for 1943 they would have been in the M1942 uniform, which was issued in olive drab number 3, which is quite a yellowish green.
Okay. No, they do look quite yellowish. Is there a chap there with a Japanese hat in the back corner?
No. That's
just a
bandage.
Okay, no, I'm looking at the one next to it. He looks a little bit like he's stolen the Japanese hat.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
That one. No, it's I've woolen beanie cap.
Okay. God, those are amazing little figures. You must be really pleased with those.
Yeah, so the first batch I painted was
it looks like Radar from MASH, doesn't it?
HQ squad and 60mm mortar squad.
Okay, yeah.
Then I painted up first rifle squad.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, super little faces.
Squad sergeant, the LMG team, rifle team, and second rifle squad.
Yeah, this was the bonus one, wasn't it? Yeah, this one happened by accident. I don't seem to remember.
No, this was so I had for two rifle squads. So I've actually got full platoon.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
13 days plus the 8 test figures.
Yeah. So you're just now itching for the pub to be open again, so that these can take the field in. I'm trying to remember, was this for chain of command particularly? Or?
Yeah, it's for chain of command. And so I've got stuff working on. Got most of the way through the next batch of 12 figures, which is I support elements. So medic, sniper, engineer, forward observer, tripod MG team.
So that's kind of over the last 2 weeks. Then that works out probably about 2 figures a day, on average, roughly. There's probably about 30 of them there, isn't there?
Just 36 plus the 8 test figures.
Oh, right. Okay. So 3 a day then. You've been absolutely motoring.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much, I guess you go in fits and spurts, but dare you even think on, what the average time per day is? How much time has gone into those 36?
Trying to work out how many.
You can plead the fifth if you.
Probably about 4 hours a day, actually.
Okay, all right. So only then a week's solid 9 to 5 work equivalent. Yeah. That's good. That's fantastic. They look absolutely awesome. They're lovely figures as well. You must be. Is that a company that you've bought?
The artisan figures that are great. Crusader. They're okay. They don't have quite as much character.
Yeah. No. Is there someone who sculpts all that range, or trying to think who it is?
I'm not sure who.
No.
I should know who the sculptor is.
Yeah. Can't quite remember. Okay. Intriguing. All right then, and then so is that? No, you're now about 2/3 of the way through this project, so there'll be more of these people, but more specialists. One question actually with the bazookas, because I've ummed about this in smaller scales, not 28s, but smaller scales. I saw your bazookas were just kind of all green. Is there a rationale for having little spots of color on bazookas, or were they just all green?
But they're all green. The parts which would be sort of wooden plain metal, but on those figures you don't actually get to see those.
Fine.
The shoulders
stop. Yeah.
Is actually hidden on them.
Right. Maybe I'm thinking about more modern, ATGW teams and things like that, where there's sometimes little spots of yellow and red or whatever, but not on a Second World War bazooka.
Yeah, I haven't seen any markings on
any markings at all. It's just a big tube and a lump of metal that fires things at people. Okay, all right. Well, just whizzing around the circuit then. Simon, what about you over the last couple of weeks? Have you been back on the painting mojo? Has something else started, or still chewing through the Macedonians?
Have been doing some painting. I have painted something in honor of Peter. We have Team Badger here. So,
okay. There's something Badger related, really.
It's 4 cataphracts, all painted in gold.
Golden
nice. I like it.
So these are some cataphracts who these guys here. I think they're museum ones. They
look museum, don't they? Yeah.
These are ones that I painted pretty spectacularly badly a few years ago. So using that bias strip, stripped them right back down and repainted them all up, and using the bright gold and a little bit of a wash, get quite a nice effect on the armor. So when I put them down the table, you can go, yep, they're cataphracts, because they're so different to all the other cavalry. So they came out quite nice. So this will be Team Badger, all 4 cataphracts.
No,
is that meant to be a Seleucid army?
It's the combination of Seleucid, Alexander the Greek, random other bits. So it's just been dribs and drabs as I get motivated, try something different. So did a couple of hoplites, then the cataphracts, then did the pikemen, the companions, and came back and did more hoplites.
Oh, I see that you put those hoplites on 40 by 40s to give them a bit more space, to kind of be a bit more, but they still look really densely clustered, don't they?
Yeah, so what I managed to do here, let me stop that one, share. Yeah, so I've gone for a bit more of a densely packed on the base. So still, I've gone for the 1UD or 40 mil square, 15 mil. So you get a little bit of space at the front to grab hold of it, especially because I've gone for a few of the hoplites where they're pointing their spears at the enemy. Some are standing up, some are kneeling down. So you get that more vibrant effect rather than Essex miniatures all staying in one formation.
Yeah.
And
on this close-up, you can really see the detail on those museum casts, aren't they? On those helmets. That's astounding at this kind of close-up.
Yeah,
really
so
they're
one of those models where when you first start painting it, you think you've lost all the detail, but then when you do the washes, and that's my level of painting, all of a sudden things pop out again. So quite happy. I think they'll look quite spectacular on the table as someone drives over them, but at least they look pretty.
Yeah, no, that's very impressive. Good. So you've kind of put together the meat and veg for a sort of proper, or a number of successor armies then over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I've got one pikeman. I've got a bunch more ready to paint. I mean, haven't been able to do any spray painting because it's been snowing. Go figure.
It's been all over the shop, hasn't it, weather-wise? Definitely.
Yeah. I've got them and then the gentlemen. So then I'll have enough to do, I think, most of the Greek armies, because I may have a few elephants and a few Indians to do the allied options. So I think I'm okay with those.
Yeah, I think we're probably confident that you've got enough elephants there for sure.
This means war.
Well, if we're stomping around, let's carry on stomping around the screen. And Mr. Finkel, you were sort of ankle deep in successes and things as well last time we were talking. Where's your last couple of weeks painting got you to?
I painted the 24 Saracen bowmen for the Normans in Italy. So I've got them as a selection of medium foot, and I've now been painting a whole load of 10 mil Pendragon World War II British guys for O Group.
Okay, so how because Adam was saying he's gone black undercoat and then sort of semi dry brush on top. What's your Pendragon approach to those Brits? How have you layered them up?
Grey undercoat and then basically British khaki on top, and then dabs for a lighter color for the rucksack and the gaiters, a darker brown for the gun, unless it's a Sten gun, in which case it's black, little dab of flesh, and then you paint back over the bits you've over painted, and then that's essentially it. Some of them are paratroopers, so those I've done in more slightly different colored smocks with brown and then a bit of green and then a sort of slight.
Yeah, but what about the hats though? What about the hats? That's the only thing I care about, obviously.
Well, most of them have got helmets, but some of them do have berets, and those will be painted in a proper beret color.
Yeah, well, as many of them as you can. Definitely as many of them as you can. Yeah. Dave's waving some Scottish berets at us as well. Then.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be painting the color of Dave's bobble hat, but I just want to reassure you on that.
No, but the risk is though, Andy, the discussion about Dave's bobble hat came before we started recording. So anybody listening to this is wondering what on earth that means and hoping it doesn't mean what they think. So hopefully, we were talking about an actual genuine bobble hat. We weren't going anywhere else with that one.
Bobble.
There was no bobble.
A bit of mystery, see if anyone's actually listening.
Yeah, that's the kind of mystery that people want to remain mysterious, I suspect. Unless
especially the haven't seen the bloody thing, yeah.
Exactly.
So is bobble hat a euphemism for something?
Is there an echo in here?
I've never heard that before.
It's a bobble
What's
hat.
the euphemism for?
It's a euphemism for a bobble hat.
Yeah, just for a bobble hat. Yeah. Sit down, be quiet. You should be on mute again, I think is the answer.
Is it a euphemism for someone's cock?
It could well be. Yes.
Only among Arsenal fans, I believe.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, don't go all Tottenham Hotspur on us with that one. So it's been mostly finishing off something and then diving into Second World War then.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm wrestling with these bloody Victrix tanks trying to stick the things together, and it's a bit frustrating that some of the instructions are a bit basic, and you get little bits to stick on. You're not quite sure what they are or where they're meant to go, which is a bit annoying.
There's all over. And you've got half a dozen of is it the Cromwells?
Yeah, a pack of the 6 Cromwells, and I've got a pack of 6 Hanamags. And they've got some weird, I haven't tried sticking them together yet, but they've got some weird and wacky bits which you're not quite sure where they go. They look a bit like blankets folded over with a German helmet stuck in the middle and things.
Right.
Submarine periscopes.
That would be for backpacks.
For a Hanamag, the backpacks.
Yeah, they use sling mode. They use sling mode over the side.
Well, these look like, when you look at the photos, they look like they're stuck on the side. And you read the painting guide. It's about 10 pages of why you need about 50 different colors of oil to make it look like mud. And, a bit more explanation as to these are the little bits, this is what they are, this is where they go, would have been helpful.
Yeah. No, I think that's now at least 3 of us could probably do a team rant on the painting instructions on tiny little Victrix tanks, and I think we'd all probably still be here next week if we were doing about that one. Okay, well, I think from my point of view over the last couple of weeks, it's been a couple of different things. I did actually have a tidy up I'd ended up with too many projects on the go. So I just actually had to tidy up, and I put some stuff in boxes to stop myself getting distracted and thinking, I've got, blue paint on the brush. I'll do a bit of those as well because they probably need some blue. So I really zeroed in, and first of all, I finished off. I don't know. You might have seen it on Facebook or Twitter. The Museum Miniatures new Persian Sparabara and Immortals, which I kind of had hanging around since their sale right at the beginning of January. In fact, it might have been in December. I think I ordered them and they arrived within about 3 days, which was like boom. So it might even have been very, very late December that got done. And they'd all been undercoated white, and then I'd done a wash on some of them, and I did a real mix of normal paints and contrast paints and washes on white undercoat to really mix up all the different figures, because I wanted to achieve this really random, mad, eclectic Persian host look with all the different Sparabara as well. It was all kind of a bit nutty. Some of them had helmets on, some of them had the funny little Phrygian caps and stuff. Some had cuirasses. And like I think you were saying, Simon, and like that photo showed, I went through this thing and thinking, I've completely lost the detail here. There's just not enough to paint. And there's not enough to paint, but there is enough to pick up with a wash, I think is the secret. It would be nice if they were a little bit more, because you've got to be very, very careful. I think there were a couple of figures that had probably lost it, but they kind of got crammed in there. But but they're just about being done on washes, and they were a project that lasted for a long time because I was just doing so many different colors and some patterns. And then at one point I just went, sod it, I'm just going to start finishing them off. And the real thing that really moved them on was copying my own wallpaper idea for the fronts of the sparas, or what they are, the Pavisi things. So I did some Google searching for Persian patterns and things like that, shrunk them down really tiny and stuck them on. So all of the different Pavisis have all got this different kind of rug type pattern on them. So they're really, really bright and colorful, and they all look mad and all look a bit different. I've been pinging some of the pictures onto the WhatsApp group as well. You're probably all sick of the sight of them, but it was quite a lot of work to get them all done. And I got them all done and based them on, they're all on 40 by 40s, but like you, Simon, I set the front rank of Pavis guys back a bit to give some space. And then most of them, I managed to fit 2 ranks of archers in as well. So there's between 12 and 14 figures on each of the 6 bases. The front 4 Pavis bearers, there's normally one guy kind of shooting through there, or reaching through with an axe or something as well to give it a bit of animation. And I put them on Facebook and up on Twitter, and I think it was my most reacted post, Madaxeman post on Facebook ever. I think I shared it to about 3 groups, and it got nearly 100, well, over 150 likes and ticks or smiles or whatever. So it really made an impact. But and I think I'm gonna, so many people going, how did you do it? And I think it's a new technique, and I'm going to call it 2D printing, and see if it takes off. Really, it could be the future for the future of wargaming. But so they've been done, and in this random weather, I did manage to get them varnished as well. And then
just before we go on, question on them, because one thing that I think is the greatest about washes, it always impresses me when I manage to do it. So I just go, wow, that's brilliant. I love doing washes on faces, because a good figure, if you put a wash on, it goes from I put flesh color on it to there's a facial expression and there's a face. I love that effect on faces. Those figures, even though you can see detail elsewhere and done washes elsewhere, the faces do seem quite.
I didn't wash the faces. I actually didn't wash the faces, or and I'm not sure if that's because I didn't wash the faces or because I haven't washed the faces yet. I've still got to work that out. So I may go back and put washes on them. And there was an element of, these have taken so bloody long. I'm running out of patience to carry on doing it, because I knew that I was going to pack so bloody many of them onto a base that it was just going to be a complete mass effect. And I think it is that classic thing of, if you take a photo and blow it up really big, they never look, other than if they're Tamsins, in which case they look fucking better the closer you get, you bastard. But if they're normal mere mortals, the bigger you get it, you can see where they're just badly painted. But en masse, they look just really much more impressive. And I knew the visual was going to go to the Pavises and the shields. So I kind of wanted the visual to be a line of Pavises and then a mess behind it. That was almost part of it. So I may go back and add a wash to those as well. But as they've been undercoated, and then the flesh paint I've got is a bit gloopy, and it's pretty rough and ready with the hats and the rest of it around there. I don't know how much extra I will get with a wash on these faces with this thickness of paint on them for something this small that you won't see anyway, versus the 2 foot, 3 foot test of going, a wash might darken the flesh and make them not as, they're almost like, I guess whether would you do a wash on 10 mil figures because you actually want the face to pop a bit more, or on 6mm, you know, so they're almost a little bit like that. So that's sort of my excuse for being a bit lazy, and partly for forgetting it as well. But it is a good point, and I may well go back and add it at some other point. But they really are all about drawing the eye to those mad coloured pavises, and hoping that you know, people don't notice too much that the rest of it is a bit of a dog's breakfast.
Well,
And,
those wallpaper things that you've got are really good, and I'll tell you why. Because somebody I saw on Facebook did a Persian army of Darius the Great recently, and the figures are quite nicely painted. But he did one of those war towers. I'm not sure it was exactly the same make as yours, but he didn't have wallpaper on it, and it looked really dull by comparison.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, for cheating, for drawing the eye away from painting and just doing stuff, it does actually work. And I think the Persians have to be quite colourful. And so after I kind of
those rugs are definitely colourful.
They're definitely colourful. Definitely colourful. Let's hope they're decent.
Persian carpet bearers.
Persian carpet bearers, yeah.
Persian,
why not?
Carpet bearers.
No, they should be
apple
bearers, because they had big spears, but they're actual, instead of being apple.
If I'd done the little apple symbol all along, you know, it would have been wonderful for Steve Jobs, but a bit anachronistic. But and then
I thought the apple bearers were the elite guys in the later Persian army.
Exactly.
Oh, it's all the same. They're just Persians. And then I've been kind of wading into the much differently cast Eastern Thracians, which I started putting on bases this afternoon. So I've got another, where's it gone? Reach this right here. Another 8 bases of whatever they are, Thracian peltasts and swordsmen and javelinmen and stuff like that, and spearmen, and a few bases of Thracian light infantry, which will take my Thracians up to 16 or 17 bases of Thracian troops that will kind of be a kind of Thracian host, along with the ones that I've already got painted already. And those are all, let's drop them back. They're all the Zeiston figures, so they're really consistent and really good, and they do take a wash and they take a dry brush really, really well. And the belts on those are about, you know, in real scale, about 4 inches thick. So it's very easy to pick them out and paint them. And then I did have a day yesterday of covering the floor around my desk with small little bits of transparent plastic with an LBMS, kind of carefully cut them out and ping them on and glue them on. And then a second day of the other part of LBMS world, which is try to match the paint to paint around the edge of the transfer on the shields, which is just a world of painful. But I think I've just about done it, and they're getting close to being based up and ready to go. So, you know, that'll be 2 big units and 2 big steps towards armies being available to play with once we're actually able to start getting back on table and playing.
What are you going to try next with the transfers then? Any particular army in mind?
Well, I think I've got a load of medieval 15mm stuff to redo, because I bio-stripped a whole, not Legio Heroica, a whole Merliton medieval Italian army that I painted years ago and I wasn't particularly happy with. So I'm doing some tests with those, and I may well do a load of kind of pavises and shields and things for a medieval army to really get the colours, because this printer that we've got, you know, it's not a wildly, you know, super top end printer, but it's a decent printer. It's like it's not a 30 quid printer, it's an 80 quid printer, but it produces so much better quality than the printer that we've had for about 10-15 years, obviously, I guess. So you can get great detail on really, really tiny little things. So I think I'll try to do more of that and try it on some sort of medieval stuff and really get those big all those super detailed patterns out there. So that's probably next up.
You can really go to town, because otherwise some of the standard ones, you end up having the same sort of look as someone else rocks up with. Whereas doing your own, you can really go to town on some of the medieval heraldry.
Yeah, unless I guess you do Teutons and just stick a dirty great black cross on them, don't you, Peter?
Yeah, just a quick cross, you know?
With a crayon.
Yes, with a crayon. Yes. And I think on that note, that's time to wrap up this painting session.
This means war.
So look, so now it's time, after having done the painting, to move into, I'm sorry, I think you're an arse. Coming up next on Madaxeman Radio, it's I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse, the antidote to informed discussion shows. At the piano this week is Scott Joplin, and your chairman is Sir Humphrey Humphreyson. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's edition of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. You join us this week from the Citadel Paints Opera House in Dean's Bottom in Kent, known as the Garden of England for good reason. Nestled gently in the rolling hills of southern England, visitors to the town can climb to the top of a nearby TV broadcasting mast, where they're greeted with a view covering 7 different counties. On a clear day, it is sometimes even possible to catch sight of Portsmouth off in the distance, despite the many prominent warning signs advising against this. Well, we're here in this wonderful venue, and we're giving Adam a break this week, which may disappoint some of you, possibly disappoint you even more when you've heard the alternative, which is yet more of me. And this week, I think it might actually literally be today, is when we're recording this, is the anniversary of the start of the American Civil War. And I think it's the bombardment of Fort Sumter. And then just a week ago was the anniversary of the end of the American Civil War as well, where when the surrender was received by Grant and all the rest of it after Gettysburg and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very American Civil War-y themed at the moment. And the world of wargaming has been all a quiver over Warlord Games' new unique scale as well for their new, well, not new, but sort of semi-new American Civil War game. So there's a lot of kind of American Civil War stuff floating in the air at the moment. And my thoughts on this is really that it's just a load of nonsense. The American Civil War is a complete waste of time from a wargaming point of view, from a historical point of view. And it just really, the world would be much better if everything to do with the American Civil War was just scrubbed from history and from wargaming, and we could just jump straight from what happened before to what happened after and just not bother with it at all. Just utterly, completely forget about it. And I think the great quote that sums it up is a quote about the American Civil War, which I think, Adam, you put up, was, "I have nothing to learn from the American Civil War. It was just 2 armed mobs chasing each other around the countryside," from a man called Von Moltke. And when a man who's most famous for inventing a brand of filter coffee says it's shit, where else do you have to go with that one, really? But the American Civil War, the big problem I have with it achieved absolutely nothing. It started with a load of states in the United States. The United States existed. There were a load of states. 4 years later, slightly less than 4 years later, just the same set of states, all back in the United States. I mean, like 4 years, still same end point, same start point. Zig and Zag were on the Big Breakfast on Channel 4 for longer than that. Okay, less people died as a result of Zig and Zag, but you get the picture. It's not really a great deal amount of time to start and end in the same thing. So, and they always say with the American Civil War, it's famous for being the conflict that had more ink spilt on it than blood. There are just too bloody many books about the American Civil War. You go onto Amazon, there's books about the whole war. There's books about the battles, the campaigns, the personality, the food they ate, the footwear they had, what they dressed like, what happened in the cities, what happened on the naval side of it. There's literally hundreds. There are 75 pages of different types of books about the American Civil War. There's even stuff in travel and tourism. You can go on battlefield tours. There's social sciences. There's military history. There's an enormous volume of written material about this 4-year start point, end point, exactly the same war. And all of them basically boil down to people trying to answer one question. And that question is, well, was it about slavery then? And the answer is always, apart from kind of like completely bonkers nutty people, well, it's a bit more complicated than that, but yes, it was. And all of the books say that, every single thing. That's just the way it works. And so it's even the same conclusion about what happened about it. And I think the other bit, if you look at the way the thing is, the way the thing was organized, it was a very short period of time, start point and end point exactly the same. It's called the American Civil War, which is another big problem I have with it, because it wasn't American. The distance from Richmond, which is the capital of the Confederacy, to Washington, DC, is 133 miles on the US 301. It's 108 miles if you take the I-95, which, of course, it wasn't built then, but even so, you'd still drive it in 2 hours. Sherman or Grant could have popped over any time they wanted. Traffic is bad. It might take you 3 hours, but even so, a Sherman fucking tank could do it in 4 hours. So why did this war take 4 years to try and two people who were that bloody close? It's like saying we had a 4-year war between London and Bournemouth. Unless one of the armies stops off in Birdworld off the M3 for a couple of years, it's not, you're going to have sorted it out by then. You can meet each other and fight whenever you want. So, but there were, nearly all the battles were in this tiny, tiny postage stamp bit of America. There were occasional battles elsewhere. People went on holiday and just kind of met up and sort of pretended they had a battle or something like that, somewhere warmer. But everything happened in this tiny zone, and yet they still didn't resolve it for 4 years. So the whole war, the naming of it, the concept, the rationale, the start point, all of it's nonsense, but particularly from a wargaming point of view, because in the American Civil War, there was no tactics, there were no innovations, there was not even any real success through clever generalship. There was just two armies using the same tactics, blundering around and bumping into each other at various different scales and various different places. It's like, and you kind of go, no, surely there must have been something. It's like these armies just blundered around in this really close, tiny space and occasionally bumped into each other. Have you ever seen another war in this period of kind of line up and shoot world in which so many battles were actually fought in forests? One of them was called the Wilderness. These people didn't even know how to set up proper terrain. The terrain rules were nonsense. They should have cleared the, looked for at least open spaces to kind of tee about it. And you read any of the military books, all the narratives of the battles are the same. The odds are irrelevant. Bottom line is, one side, somebody panicked, someone was stupid, someone was brave, the other side won. There's no science to it. There's no tactics. There's nothing at all. And the bottom line is the Union had more men and equipment, and they won in the end. And that's, sorry if that's a spoiler for anyone who's not read the books yet, but it's just, they just had more stuff and just Brownian motion and just knocking heads. It just kind of happened. So they even had the same equipment. It was often made in the same factory, or they nicked it from each other. They weren't even smart enough to create different caliber ammunition so that, they couldn't nick each other's, shells and stuff like that. And then they had two types of gun, two types of artillery. And those two types of artillery, they had rifle guns, and they had parrot guns. Parrot guns, as well as rifled, I get it. Parrot guns doesn't even make any sense at all. Rifled and smoothbore, perhaps, not rifled and parrot. If it had been, we've got parrot guns and great crested grebe guns, possibly, I see that. But, and even so, all of these guns were so badly made that they kept blowing up. That when they were taking these guns out from the factories, or the, whatever the word is that you make guns, forgeries, foundries, the way they tested them was when they were shipping them, they put them on a train and fired them out into the countryside, because if they blew up the first time they were fired, it would only take out one train carriage. So this is just a war of half-hearted incompetence with near identical weapons, some of which have stupid names. And war games rules find this all so boring that they have to invent differences between these guns just to pretend that they've not, whoever wrote these rules hasn't just ripped you off with a 30 quid book that says, look, if numbers are equal, you may as well just toss the fucking coin. Even 20% either side, it's just a bloody lottery, but everything's the same. So they invent things in which we focus on the rifle guns and the parrot guns as being different. And then the other thing that war games rules do in this period, which is utter nonsense, is that they create this romantic psychological advantage, which is always a +1 in combat, of the rebels are better charging in. That's the fundamental principle of all American Civil War rules. But if anybody knows anything about any of the period of warfare around this, this is a period of history where standing in a line and shooting at people is the way to do this. So the only rules thing to differentiate the two armies is to create an artificial, romantic nonsense thing to encourage you to do the wrong thing. Now, how mental is that? And it's an encouragement to be stupid, and an encouragement to lose is baked into the rules. Otherwise, it'd just be a bloody lottery. And then the uniforms. Where do we even go with the uniforms? There are hundreds of factories. They're spread all across the States. They're nicking stuff. They wear it for years. They wear it in the field. It's always raining. It's always filthy. They're always, and then all these things are going to, of course, make it completely different, which means wargamers, of course, get obsessed about what shade of blue the Union wore, and spend huge pages debating this when it's clearly a nonsense. And don't even get me started on bloody butternut. That's not even a colour. That's utter nonsense. It's like looking for Vallejo instant tartan. You're never going to find it. Everybody knows it. Don't waste my bloody time. The bottom line is one lot, they're grey and beige. The other lot, they're blue. That's all there is. That's how dull can you get? And even if you look at the Sabutio starter set, there's red jerseys and blue jerseys and white shorts and white shorts. There's more colours and variety in the Sabutio starter set than there was in the whole of the American Civil War. And I can see some of you are about to put your hands up and go Zouaves. And I'm going, no, they didn't exist. That's just been made up just by people who wanted to sell extra paint. Just nonsense. And even if they did exist, they were not wearing their bloody Easter party, Irish Day parade stuff to go to war. Utter nonsense. They wore the same nonsense brown and blue as everybody else. So the whole uniforms and equipment of the war has been designed, it's been invented after the fact to take the piss out of wargamers, because everybody knows that we're a bunch of OCD obsessed, susceptible individuals. So having something completely identical that there's no facts about, it's all just nonsense, very, very difficult to for us to get our heads around. So even the similarities between the two armies are so great that the facial hair of the generals was the same. And in some ways, this is the only difference, the subtle differences in facial hair. So if you look at facial hair, and if you look at the proceedings of the Natural Institute of Science, which is a real thing that's on the internet, because everything on the internet is real. In November 2015, their Natural Institute of Science proceedings book, volume 2 for hard science, there's proper data behind this, produced a study entitled Beards of War, the relationship between facial hair and battle outcome in the US Civil War. And they used facial hair data gathered from commanders of the US Civil War and mapped it against the National Park Service database on the outcome of battles of the Civil War. And they evaluated a hypothesis that bearditude, which I think is a fabulous word, we should turn it on its head and use it for Pete, but bearditude positively correlates with military success. And if you look at 226 battles in which the beard to face ratio of the commanders on both sides is actually known, the commander with the bigger beard won 114 of those 226, which is 50.4%. So that's still pretty bloody equal, but it does mean that the more hairy the officer was, they could win 2 more battles in the whole Civil War than less hairy. But there's a lot more analysis about different types of hair. If you had mutton chops with a mustache, there were 6 battles involving a general with that, 100% success rate. So that was the facial hairstyle to go for. Goatee beard, just a goatee, no. 1 win out of 6, a 5 and 1 against, that's really the worst kind of thing. And there's all sorts of things. But the whole thing, parrot guns, uniforms, weapons, the rest of it, the only difference between the two sides is which barber you went to. That's it. And how do you simulate that in a bloody war game?
Sergeant, Tim, I think you are underbaking the importance of the beardiness and hirsuteness, because what's important here is, okay, generals in the American Civil War didn't know how to coordinate in a successful offence, okay? They just couldn't. They just blundered around, fell into each other for 4 years until everyone dropped down dead. Okay?
Normally in a wood, yeah.
But what you get is in the 1840s and the 1850s, you had von Moltke in Prussia training his general staff to be successful officers and successful generals.
But he should train to be successful barbers by this.
The Prussians,
the secret.
The Prussians went for the whole let's try and train our generals to be good at commanding troops stuff. And that kind of worked, as proved in 1866 and 1870. But I think at West Point during the 1840s and the 1850s, there was lots and lots of lessons, military lessons about hirsuteness and beardiness, okay? And it's not just about how big the beard was. If you look at some of the photographs of the generals in the American Civil War, some of these pieces of facial hair,
facial furniture,
it's just craziness. Some of the beards are just craziness. They studied at West Point how to do this stuff for a couple of decades. And if the American Civil War didn't happen, we would never get to see such facial hair craziness. I mean, because I look at Peter and I look at his beard and he's just not trying. And I look at Andy and that's just a bit rubbish as well.
It's only because I trimmed it. It was looking sort of proper American Civil War raggedy.
I
might have to. No, but I need to grow it out. I've just realised for Peter, the next competition, I've got to grow it out and get really bushy.
No, because proper American Civil War is really big sideburns, nothing on the cheeks, maybe a big curly beard, and maybe sort of like the middle of the chin missing with two bits coming out like this.
No. There's some really good long bushy ones.
If you look at the
Adam, I know you do look a bit like General Burnside, especially if you stuck the whiskers on, but he was one of the least successful generals of the Civil War.
Yeah, but
that's why you got to look at the data, Andy. You know, because I think Abden, you're absolutely right. Because if you've got the sort of facial hair that's best described as friendly mutton chops, either side, something good to hang on to.
I mean, the sideburns were even named after him.
You're, at a 66% win ratio, whereas Peter, short beard, I think I'm saying, 0.485 win ratio. You've got a number. You've also got 28 of nearly 140 of those battles were inconclusive. So you're not even getting decisive results due to your facial hair if you're in the American Civil War. So
we would have not seen such beardage without the war. No. And having such beardage in history, I think, is a good service that the Americans have done for the world.
See, Tim, I think part of your rant is doing yourself a disservice, because at the end of the day, American Civil War is great for my level of painting. One can of blue spray, one can of grey spray. I don't see what the problem is. Army, instant army.
But I think this is where there's still, you're missing the great opportunity for people of your low talent to paint things in the American Civil War, because the only place in the American Civil War where there actually was some innovation and some novelty and clever stuff going on was in the naval side, and ironclads and monitors, and there was a huge amount of innovation there. It was kind of a crucible of innovation.
This is the one where they fight each other for a whole day and then quit.
Hang on, Peter, let me just say, I read somewhere that if you want to simulate American Civil War naval wargaming between ironclads, you should get two people, put a saucepan on their heads, give them each a hammer, and they each take it in turns to whack each other on the head until one of them gets fed up. And that's how you simulate the effects of American Civil War naval combat.
Sounds like a job for the Batley Townsmen's Guild.
Yes, the Batley Townsmen's Guild. And this is exactly what I'm saying.
They did Pearl Harbor, they started later.
The only bit of the war where there was innovation and development was designed again to take the piss out of wargamers. So, where you start is with multi-masted ships of the line, broadsides, boarding parties, privateers, cutlasses, Captain Pugwash, all that sort of stuff going on. And then, because the innovation evolves that into something you can simulate by literally putting a pot on your head and staggering around the dark and hitting someone else with a spoon. And then from a wargaming point of view, you make it by cutting out a piece of cardboard into an oval and spraying it grey. If you're lucky, you can put a turret on the top, which, still is dark grey. And the only good side about that is a callback to 3 weeks ago when you can use redundant Humbrol tins on it. They're perfectly designed at the right scale to act as the turret. But other than that, naval innovation in the American Civil War, its only function was to hammer the fun out of it for wargamers, from something that was quite fun to paint and do and complex to something that was really, really dull, but at Peter's level of painting skill.
The Merrimack, when it came out, was described as a floating barn.
You're also missing a trick here for the naval side, because that can actually be quite fun, because lots of American wargamers are American particularists. They think everything to do with America is great. They tell you that the American Civil War invented modern military tactics, which is of course nonsense. And they go, oh yeah, and it's like ironclads, and we invented ironclads, and it's all innovation. American ironclads were crap, okay? And it's quite fun to have this conversation with Americans that go, oh, the Monitor, it's like it was a first turreted ship. No, it wasn't. HMS Trusty was. It was a first ironclad. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Le Gloire was. Oh, yeah, but... And then you say, the Monitor, how did she sink? She sank sailing along in a bit of a storm. That's how good a ship
she was. But it went out to sea by itself, basically.
Yeah, that's how good a ship she was. But two points I want to make. One sort of like obviously a bit jokey and not serious. The other sort of like a really serious thing about why the American Civil War was important. So firstly, the important one is Fire and Fury is one of the best war game rules I've ever played. Okay, they give fantastically good games. So it's good the American Civil War happened because it created one of the best war game rules I've ever played.
Yeah, but you use so much terrain for those rules. You need shed loads of it to do it properly.
But obviously, the not so serious one is sort of like getting rid of slavery, and that is kind of important.
Yeah. Look, okay, I think you must say that yes, the American Civil War did technically bring to an end the heinous and evil practice of slavery in the United States. It freed millions from lives of servitude and often unspeakable cruelty. That is a perfectly legitimate argument to deploy. And but I think if you just look at the bigger picture, which is the important bit, everyone else in the rest of the world just kind of stopped because it was like heinous and evil, and everybody kind of realized that and just stopped it. Britain stopped it in 1833, even the whole empire, even the bits that no one was really looking at. France, 1848, that stopped it, all the French colonies. Most of Latin America had stopped it by 1826, long time before this. The northern states in most of America, footprint-wise, economy-wise, the bit that was obviously going to win, had all stopped by 1804. So really, it's kind of like slavery, yes, was stopping, had to stop, was terrible, it's great, it's all gone. But to actually have to have a war with yourself because some of your own people don't really want to give up a practice that the rest of the world finds abhorrent, that's, from a British point of view, that's quite embarrassing, isn't it, really? What we would do is go, oh, that was a bit awkward. Shall we all just pretend that didn't happen and go and have a cup of tea? And unfortunately, Americans threw all the tea into the harbour. So they didn't have that sort of sweeping under the carpet and let's not talk about what Auntie Agatha did.
We kind of stretch out the English Civil War, though, didn't we?
Yeah, but we ended up, we gave the world.
Yeah, we got 3 civil wars out of it, didn't we?
We got 3 civil wars out of it. There was loads of history that's still going on, and and all sorts of interesting things, and some.
But the beards weren't as good. But funnily enough, the haircuts were better.
So the haircuts were better.
Like swings and roundabouts.
I've had as well.
Yeah, but you got different unit types, didn't you? I mean, Martin Van Tol set up a competition in the club years ago for the English Civil War and got about 32 different armies with different nuances out of it.
Exactly.
And the kind of Cromwell's new model army, you compare that with Montrose's guys running around Scotland with bows and arrows and Tartans and Irishmen and whatnot, and it's completely different armies. Yeah. You don't get that in the American Civil War.
No, but I think, again, one of the other things about the American Civil War, though, because those battles here, at least we've done the decent thing, and to sort of try and forget about it, we've kind of built car parks and shopping centres over those battlefields. But the Americans, with their battlefields, there's no hard work involved. There's no imagination. You don't have to dig up a car park in Leicester to try and find out what happened or stuff. So minutes after the battle's finished, somebody marched in and went, actually, let's keep this. This might be important. Let's make a national park. We'll get people in. We'll get mowing the lawns. We'll get lawn keepers in. We'll do some horticulture. We'll even by the end of it, they start putting roads through so you can do a battlefield tour without even getting out of your car. And these are places, so they just even made it so easy that it's too lazy to do so. And the only complicated thing about getting hold of American Civil War battlefields, making it just too easy, there's no sense of achievement, is all of them have got multiple names. They can't even settle on one name, even though one side won. There's still 2 names. Is it Manassas? Is it Bull Run? In fact, Manassas and Bull Run, they fought the same battle on the same place twice. How unimaginative is that? They've not, you think normally you might, we'll shift one of the bits of terrain around or move that field to make it more interesting or something. But no, it's like, let's turn up and do it again. And Sharps, or is it Antietam?
The thing it was because the
Union,
Union,
who knows?
the Union side was obsessed by waterways, and they named battles after the nearest waterway, whereas the Confederates named after the nearest town. So Shiloh is known as Pittsburgh Landing, Murfreesboro, Stones River.
But Andy, I don't think you're really building a compelling case that the most interesting thing is how they chose to name the battlefields. We've still not got anything interesting happening in the battlefields, and and if you look at some of the other battles,
it's quite entertaining because usually most battles were resolved because somebody got lost or failed to turn up or had the hump or something.
Or some of them were sieges. One of the famous ones, which I think Adam, me and you have actually been to, the Siege of St. Petersburg. Huge famous battle, huge thing you can tour around. What it's famous for is a massive mine and a massive explosion, and that's the centerpiece of the battlefield. And we walked, miles across this battlefield on a boiling hot day through it, and with big build-up, and you go, that's kind of a reasonable sized hole in the ground.
The crater's a bit naff, isn't it? I've been there.
But that's the most important bit, and it's a bit shit.
But I tell you what,
I mean, there's much bigger craters in Belgium in World War One, but we did it properly.
All the statues and the memorials from the Sisterhood of the Confederacy were very impressive, if slightly creepy and scary.
Yeah, although they may not be there now, I suspect not. But and then the absolute whole super wargaming pivot point, which makes it something that the world of wargaming would be much better without, is the most famous single bit of all, which is Pickett's charge, which my proposition, the whole proposition could be built on this as well, is that it's just a bad thing for the world of wargaming. So Pickett's charge was just a bit shit. It was going to fail. Its own commander, Longstreet, said, this will fail. It was a full frontal attack on a prepared position, and that prepared position was called Cemetery Ridge. Now, clues in the name, boys. This is not going to end well for you, really. And every tedious wargamer has now, as a result of this whole American Civil War and Pickett's charge, got the same story. Well, I went to the battlefield of Gettysburg and I walked Pickett's charge. And stone me, it's a surprising long way on the real world, and a lot of it's uphill. And it's like, no shit, Sherlock. If you've not noticed that you're a borderline morbidly obese bloke in your 60s with a sedentary hobby, you probably deserve to be surprised that running 3/4 of a mile up a hill in August, because of course that's when you go to bloody historical, isn't it, is way beyond your capabilities. So perhaps if you've got that lack of self-awareness, maybe you too could actually have been in the footsteps of Longstreet. And although he did even know it was going to fail.
But Tim, admit one thing. That day out in Antietam, that was a good day.
It was a jolly day, but that was probably because of the night before and the night after, I suspect.
No, walking back was interesting. And we went to the sunken lane, and it was fun.
Yeah, Antietam's a nice battlefield where the
to be fair,
the bridge is.
It'd be a lovely garden centre as well. If they had a tea shop there, it'd be even better. But so just to kind of sum it up, so it's a pointless war. It's so short, it barely scratches the plaque of history. It's two armies who couldn't find each other in a phone box. There's no difference between the two sides in tactics, weapons. The uniforms are designed from the ground up to trigger wargames OCD and then frustrate it. The only important factor in determining who wins can't really be modelled below 28mm scale, which is facial hair, and no commercially available rule set takes barbarism into account anyway. The naval side could literally be modelled by the beer mats and the condiments that we play with on the table after a competition. And that would be actually a more accurate representation of the figures that were there anyway. And some of the world's best preserved battlefields are only capable, acres, hundreds of square miles of national parkland, is only capable of generating the same repetitive, tedious story that is told by every single one of the hundreds of thousands of war games who've been to them all. And that's before I even get onto the Warlord Games unique scale. So I just say, American Civil War, let's park it. Let's leave it to the novels. Let's leave it to historians. Let's leave it to the barbers, to be fair. And, the barbers, the industry of barbering, they can talk about this all they want. But wargaming, we should just stop it and we should simply move on.
But they invented heroin as a result.
Has it been what? Because it was so tedious, they needed something else to
There were so many people addicted to morphine from having their legs cut off and the rest of it.
They needed a new drug.
Yeah. So they came up with heroin as a substitute for morphine because they said it would cure people of morphine addiction.
And it did.
It did. It did. Yeah, the morphine addiction went completely away. So, so are you saying that without the American Civil War, there would have been no Train Spotting, and that's quite a good film?
Exactly.
Without the Civil War, Tim, there'd be no postal voting. You'd have to walk down to the election, the ballot box, and actually post yourself. Because what happened was in 1864, it looked like Lincoln was going to lose the election, and the army.
Yeah, this is Donald Trump territory.
But he looked like he was going to lose the election, and he thought that the soldiers were likely to support him, which in fact they were. But because he couldn't call, the entire army home to vote, because that would mess up what was going on in the war. So they managed to create postal voting, which meant the soldiers could vote from where they were out on campaign. And as a result, more soldiers voted for Lincoln than against him, and that helped him to win the election. So if you can't be asked to walk down to your local polling station on the 6th of May, it's because, and you can vote without having to do that, and that's thanks to the American Civil War.
Our local polling station is really close, and it would be lovely to see all the neighbours again after 6 months of lockdown. I don't see that's a compelling argument for retaining the American Civil War. It's just
there are some
maybe,
people.
Again, it's another argument for
if you're shielding, for example, and you can't walk down there, or you're limited mobility.
Yeah, but then you're going to be the same person who's going to be telling me that story about trying to fail to get up the hill for Pickett's charge, and I've heard that story before, Andy, from every other wargamer. So my sympathy is limited on that one, I'm afraid, because someone else has told me that story.
Longstreet definitely had the best beers.
Yeah, facial hair. I think
Hood.
There's a good argument on the facial hair thing.
Hood or Longstreet. I thought Longstreet had the really good beard.
I think Hood had better beard. Mind you, he had only one arm and one leg and one eye, so he had to have some of those.
Yeah, but those other things aren't so important, are they? Really?
I'm surprised he didn't fall over.
All about the facial hair. So yeah, maybe there is a set of great war games rules to be written about barbering and facial hair use and setting those off against each other, but currently none of that important stuff is actually included in any set of rules, even the wonderful Fire and Fury, which is still a pretty good argument. But
well, you see, if it wasn't for the Civil War, Peter and Adam wouldn't have the opportunity of being Civil War general lookalikes. Because Peter, all he has to do is get out the skull spray, spray the hair, spray the beard, and there you are, General Custer.
Yes.
I don't know, if you chop Peter off from the nose downwards and take just the top, I think he's making a very, very good impression of Mao Zedong.
And he wasn't in the American Civil War either, was he? No.
I'm going to say the hair's a bit long at the back for that.
No, it's the sort of balding top and the side swipes.
Yeah, I've got the sort of like the sweeping hair at the back at the moment.
Oh, there's nearly a ponytail there. So look,
I'm swimming in that lake behind you, like Mao Zedong swimming across the lake, the river, or whatever.
Look,
you're changing the subject.
That's my proposition. I'm resting my case. I think it's just too dull. The world will be better off without it. There are some saving graces, but a war games conflict which can really be modelled by facial hair, and that alone is the only difference between the two sides. And even that's like paper thin. I just think we don't need it. But I think on that note, it's now time to, unless anybody else got any other closing points, to go around the screen and say, American Civil War, should we bin it off? Are we better off without it or not? What do you think? Simon, let's come to you first.
I think binning it would be a good idea because it doesn't really add much value to the wargaming community. However, we do have many wargamers who have been emulating these beards for quite a long while. So what would they then play? Because I mean, the Australian Civil War wasn't particularly well known. It was two guys down at a bar having a bit of a fight. but that was just last week.
What, getting beat up by ostrich, emus,
or kangaroo.
Emu war.
I don't know. I think we could all be wearing, English Civil War facial hair. That there are substitute facial hair opportunities there, but
other facial hairs are available.
Other facial hairs are available. So what do you think? Do you support my proposition, or is it going to be?
I support it. Get rid of it.
Support.
Adds no value to anything.
Okay, Tamsin, which way are you going to go?
Oh, it's tough. I'd say I'd keep it. Because nostalgia. I remember the first wargaming figures really where I had both sides was with the FX plastics.
Oh, that's a good one. And I suppose you have just painted up 1 million 6
Yeah, and I've just painted up a load. And so, as I say, the nostalgia, I have the Donald Featherstone books.
True.
And there's a great book. David Chandler, I think it was David Chandler, Art of Warfare on Land, where he had the colour pages for Peter Gilder's collection.
So Tamsin, where are you with this? Where are you going to come down? There's a lot of positives there.
I'm sorry, Tim. I think you're an arse.
Okay, let's move around the screen swiftly then. Dave, in your hobby bunker.
Arse. It's a storm in a teacup.
That is the whole point. That was my proposition. But you're a storm in a teacup sort of guy then.
A teacup.
Not a storm in a beanie hat. Mr. Finkel, with your facial hair, which way are you going to lean?
I think I've actually got to agree with you, having sold off my Civil War figures a few years ago.
Okay. Mr. Adam, and your mystery similarity to a mystery general.
You have no idea what it is. It's on the one hand, I would say with you that a wargame rule that does take beardage into account would be a very good thing. But there are two things that I'm going to send me down the arse alley, which is actually no, I don't think that's.
Would you care to rephrase that, sir?
Yeah. Anyhow, firstly, me and you, we fought Antietam over about 10 hours drinking beer and just like playing the whole battle, and it was lots of fun actually, so I kind of enjoyed that. And the second thing is something Tamsin said. It reminds me of my early copies of sort of like Miniature War Games #6, where there were full page colour photographs of Peter Gilder's American Civil War figures, and it's them and there's Napoleonic figures I looked at and thought that looks fantastic. Okay, so I am going to say American Civil War, love it, you're an arse.
Okay then, so it's 3 and 2. So Peter, with your American Civil War hairstyle and facial hair, and your love of simplistic painting, where are you going with this one?
You're an arse. It's simple, look, you're just envious of the facial hair and the flowing locks. It's but just that why really. You've got an issue with it. Plus the fact that it brings a lot of Americans into playing the game, and it's got the facial hair. Did I mention the facial hair? Yeah, see, you're an arse, Tim.
Okay, all right. So that's a 3 and 3 then. It's a tie this week on this week's episode of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. Well, as the elephant Death Star of time hits the medium-foot battle line of destiny, I see that's all we've got time for on this week's episode. So goodbye, and we'll see you next week on I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. So look, with that theme tune music receding into the distance and a tie on this week's It's let's look at who's been playing in the last 2 weeks. And I think that's a short list of one. So Mr. Finkel, do you want to give us a quick summary of, I'm guessing, 2 strategic games against Mr. Ray in the States?
Basically, yes. Both of them ancient period with chariots. First one we did was about 2 weeks ago, and I'm struggling to remember all the details, but I think it was Megiddo, where Dave had the New Kingdom Egyptians and I had the Syrian states. And again, the dice were unkind to him, but we managed to hold off. I think I had more heavy chariots than he did, and they sort of rolled over his medium foot, and he got a bit upset about that. But hey, you shouldn't have done it. And then last week we were doing a battle of Susa, which was Babylonians against Elamites, and I had the choice of armies. And even though the Babylonians had a chariot, I chose the Elamites because I thought they were slightly less crap. And that was a very close battle, but I managed to win it, even though next turn I probably would have lost my army.
Okay.
But I guess these light chariot games are quite fun.
And I guess there's a chance that they'll change even more once the that might be one of the periods that changes more than most in the new versions of ADLG, with some of the hints that we've seen as well. So maybe you'll be able to replay them. Indeed.
Well, some of the games that we go back and redo under version 4 and see how if they're any different. But if light chariots become armored, that could certainly make things a lot different.
Yeah, that would be a game changer. It would almost be as radical as moving from talking about wargaming to talking about French techno music. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond. Question. La légende le dit. Question. Elle dit aussi. Question. C'est une maladie. Question. So with that music fading into the Gallic background, and that must mean it is now time for the answers from 2 weeks ago's quiz. I'm struggling to remember my own name from 2 weeks ago, but Andy, what was the topic and what were the questions?
Well, the topic, remember I gave you a choice and you chose Down Mexico Way. And the first question was, during the Battle of San Jacinto in 1836, which helped to secure the independence of Texas from Mexico, how did the Texians generate surprise when they attacked the Mexican army? Well, Tamsin knows. Go on, tell us, Tamsin.
They moved up to fairly close range and undercut behind long grass, and only fired one volley before charging in.
That's probably right, but the main reason is they attacked while the Mexican army was having a siesta.
Yeah, that was right.
So
siesta. Yeah,
indeed, right. Okay. The second question was, how many presidents of the USA served in the US Army during that Mexican-American War of 1846 to 1847? Dave's making rude signs. Tamsin's making Star Trek signs.
So that's probably guessing it's a 2 then, isn't it? Or 3?
Well, the answer is actually 3.
3.
Yeah, Tamsin. Dave thought it was 2. Tamsin thought it was 4. Well, the 3 I've got are Zachary Taylor, Franklin Pierce, and Ulysses Grant.
Polk.
He was a president. He wasn't in the army.
I thought he was.
Polk was a president at the time.
I've been to Zachary Taylor's fort. There we go. Yeah, right. All named after him.
And the third question was, in January 1917, the German foreign minister sent a telegram to the German ambassador in Mexico, offering the Mexican government support to recover Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico if they joined Germany in attacking the USA. The telegram was intercepted by the British intelligence and passed on to the US government. What was the name given to this incident?
Zimmerframe.
Near enough.
Zinoviev.
No. It was actually called the Zimmerman telegram incident.
It's the Bob Dylan one. Okay.
Yeah. Blowing in the wind and all that. Right.
Bobby Zimmerman. Yes.
Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond. Question. La légende le dit. Question. Elle dit aussi. Question. C'est une maladie. Question.
So this week we go the topic which you chose not to answer last week, which was what's it like out? And the first question, and these are all about weather-related questions. So, question 1. In which battle in 1777 did more British troops die of heat stroke than from enemy action?
Oh, pass. Not sure.
Okay, right. Number 2. Whose corps suffered heavy casualties when it lost its way during a snowstorm at the Battle of Eylau in 1807 and marched across the front of a Russian Grand Battery?
Murat. I'm saying French names or something. Is that a French name? No.
Yeah, it wasn't, but he was a French general, but it wasn't him. You'll have to wait till next week to find out.
Okay.
And number 3, the term kamikaze means divine wind. What is the nationality of the first ship sunk by kamikaze?
Oh, technical question. And you know, and it's not a hint that we're now going to move into some Gallic techno.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
So look, with the techno music fading into the background, we're about to fade into the background for another fortnight in our new agenda. I think 2 weeks from now, we will almost certainly be doing, and hopefully be doing, an ADLG version 4 special, as we will all have had, touch wood, the book in our sweaty palms for a week or so, and we'll all be experts on it and be able to speculate wildly, still without likely play the game at all, as the weather improves, although maybe there's some outdoor gaming to be done as we inch closer towards indoor gaming and pubs opening and things like that happening. So just to quickly run round before we time ourselves out to see what's likely to happen in the next, you know, painting wise in the next couple of weeks. So Simon, what are you hoping to achieve over the next couple of weeks?
I'm hoping to finish my pikemen off for the Macedonians.
Okay, nice and solid. Are you going to go shield transferring? You're going to do or are you leaving them just with the bronze shields?
No, I think I'll sit down there and try to work out how to paint crosses really accurately by hand.
Yeah. In black, definitely.
Yeah,
that's the answer. Yes. Peter, you're looking cross. You know, other than 2 weeks more and possibly 2 weeks more of hair, and that will be the big news for us all. What's your next 2 weeks? Are you going to press the purchase button before the new rules and really gamble, or are you going to actually have self-control and wait?
I'm just self-control. Why? Yes. I get to buy more miniatures. What's the problem? Yep. Don't understand the issue. Really?
Yeah,
no,
of course.
I've already been searching while we've been talking about it and found some forged in battle bolt throwers that can be mounted on mule carts. So I'm like, yeah, I'm pressing go tomorrow morning.
Done.
So I'll get that. Yeah, bish, done. And then it's sort of sending emails to Khurasan saying, I want to get my Assyrians sorted. Dave's waving various carts at me.
Dave waves his
He's trying to give me an idea.
Okay, all right. Well, Dave, you're the cart waver, and actually, I forgot to mention when we went around things before, those 10mm figures that I passed to you in a car park somewhere in a weird suburb. Have you managed to make a start on those as yet?
No, not at all. I haven't had time to do anything but tromp the streets of London.
Okay. Well, maybe them in a couple of weeks, because I'm staring at mine here, which are sort of a bit painted. Maybe there's a kind of a 10mm Apocalypse Miniatures comparison to be done in a couple of weeks, see how they get.
I'll put them on my table now and they will be next.
They will be next.
Are these the Baron's War ones?
Yeah, these are the Baron's War ones. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've made a little bit of a start on some of mine actually, but colourful little geezers.
You need some dry brushing, sort of gunmetal.
Yeah.
So apart from the Baron Knights, do they do any other pop groups?
I think there's a Wurzels one that they're coming on, and but they're getting a 10mm Combine Harvester is just a little bit more difficult to do. Getting the
yeah, but you can put the wallpaper on it. That would look really good, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah, wallpaper.
Post wallpaper on a Combine Harvester.
Indeed. So Andy, what other than taking rare and exotic drugs, what are you planning for the next 2 weeks?
Probably just more of this 10mm O group stuff. I might summon up the energy to try and stick the Hannah mags together and see how many bits I've got left over, and possibly try painting them. That kind of stuff. And I suspect that by the time I spend time reading and looking at ADLG 4 as and when it arrives, that'll probably fill in any painting I get around to doing.
Okay, that might inspire some other stuff. And Tamsin, you're another 2 weeks. You've got another 40
another 2 weeks. I should finish the US paras, and I should finish them very quickly. After that, I'll probably do the Polish paras.
Ah, right, the European ones, proper smocks and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be something to look forward to. Good.
Are
the figures already in hand for that?
Yes. Yeah, they're already ready.
Prepped, undercoated,
prepped, primed.
Okay.
Is this a project to do every nation's paratroopers?
I don't think I'll be doing Italian or Russian.
Oh, okay.
Might eventually do some Fallschirmjäger.
Very well said. Very well said. And Adam, you're far enough away for us to have a 4-year war down the M3. What's your next 2 weeks looking like?
Maybe in American Civil War they just keep getting stuck at Winchester services, because I know I do when I come down the M3.
Yeah, it's very tempting. I stopped for an ice cream. It's a Magnum. Maybe it's just the fridge had a lot of Magnums or something.
Yeah, cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of like these nights should be finished in the next 2 weeks. So I've got the 10 mil or 12 mil or whatever fucking scale it is prepped up. So I need to decide what to prep up next, because I'm doing a 28 mil ADLG, something else, back and forth. So I did tell myself I was going to get all the mounted stuff done. So I was thinking of doing like the mounted crossbowmen and the lesser men at arms and stuff. But I'm also thinking, Swiss pike block. That sounds exciting. So I might sort of like weaken and do that instead. So I will discover.
Warlord do some nice ones.
Yeah. So would that be using the Warlord Landsknecht frilly ones, or would that be doing the earlier using the
it's the Perry ones, because this is it's not for Renaissance, it's for like the French 15th century. So it's like so rather than sort of frilly, they'll be in cantonal colours, which itself is colourful enough by all means. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. I think from my point of view, I think I should get these 10 mil ones done. Basing the Thracians is a work on that's actually happening already, so they will definitely be done. That's super close now. They're all glued on the bases and things like that. And then it's thinking, what's the next thing to start? I've got all sorts of things which are undercoated Persian cavalry. I've got some 10 mil Napoleonics. I've got some Egyptian spearmen as well that could be done. But I may still, now that there's a few more 10 mil World War II stuff going on, I may go back to my German tanks, which are sort of about 30% done in base coat and Dunkelgelb and the green stripes, but they've not had the brown and they've not had the weathering and they've not had the numbers. So I think I may well, bite the bullet and finish with that. Try and get started and finishing, or started to finish that German thing, to have that all done. And I doubt it'll be done in 2 weeks, but it will be underway. And but it'll be nice to do something that doesn't have little big man transfers for it, really. But with that, I think the main thing that we're all going to be doing is waiting for ADLG version 4 to drop on our doormats. And as I say, next 2 weeks from now, fingers crossed, we will all be doing a what do you think of the brand new rulebook first start into ADLG version 4. So on that note, it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
I didn't get to interject one comment. It was because you were saying about you could get from Washington DC to Richmond, Virginia in 4 hours in a Sherman tank. No, I don't think you could. Sherman, it would take a right turn and head down to Atlanta.
This means war.